Everybody, welcome back to my channel. Today I want to do a video just kind of chatting about something that I've been wanting to talk about for a long time. I want to talk about my childhood obesity story. The first reason I want to talk about this is because this is therapy for me, you know what I mean? Like, some of the reason that I do these videos is to just kind of let it off my chest, just to get this all out. I feel like with my YouTube community, I mean, I communicate with you guys in the comments, and sometimes a person just needs to let it all out and just tell the full story. And those who want to hear it will stick around to listen, and those who may not be interested, you know, they'll go on to the next video. But I just want to let this off my chest. And the second reason is to, I don't know, just kind of give you some insight into what a child who is struggling with being overweight is dealing with. For some people, they did not have weight struggles in their childhood. Some people put on the weight later on. For people like me, and there are a lot of you women who have told me that you can seriously relate to my story so far from what you know about my story. And I think that it's important to tell you about where this all kind of started and how this all began. When I was very young, I was a normal weight. However, I always, even in those early years, I always was known for having a big appetite. There was a story when I was almost 2 or something like that, 1 and some. I could not walk yet, but in the middle of the night after my parents put me down to bed in my crib, they remembered me crawling out of my crib, literally jumping over the rail onto the floor and crawling into their bedroom, waking them up and just saying hungry. I think that might have been one of my first words. It was also a popular story that when I was 5 years old, I could eat 2 Big Macs without a problem. And even at that time, I was still a normal weight, but I think this was the time where my relationship with food was being established, certainly, and my mentality around food was being established. It was always known that I was having seconds, I was gonna have thirds. I had a healthy appetite is what, you know, my dad and my grandparents and my aunts and uncles, they would just, everybody just kind of was like, you know, it wasn't like I was never being food shamed or anything like that. It was always like, you know, Laura has a healthy appetite, and it was almost entertaining. Like, let's see how much she can eat, you know what I mean? And I don't want to say it like they were force feeding me. It was just, if I wanted more, I'd ask for more, and it'd be like, wow, you know what I'm saying? So, I definitely think there was some subconscious training going on there, that maybe it was a good thing to be eating that much, or it was in some way a positive thing to be overeating. And I want to make this clear. I don't blame my family. I don't blame my parents in any way, shape, or form, because they did nothing but love me, and they did the best that they could with me. But this is just what happened. As I got older, that appetite caught up with me. You know, it started to catch up with me. When I was around, I think like 8, 9 years old, I started getting a little thicker and thicker. The event that pulled the ripcord, so to speak, when it came to my weight, and where you can see the most dramatic change in me as a child, was after my parents divorced. And they divorced when I turned 9, I think. That is a traumatic experience for a child, especially for me, when, you know, of course, my story is like many people's story. When you think your parents, everything is perfect and fine, and this is you guys' little family unit, and you're happy as a child, and you're in your blissful ignorance of anything that may be going on behind closed doors, and then all of a sudden it's like the rug's being pulled from under you and they're splitting, you know what I'm saying? And so with that being said, the trauma of it all, and I so strongly wanted them to be back together. I felt like my life just spiraled out of control all around me, with, you know, my mother moving out, and we were split from my dad, and I was really, really close to my father, you know, close to both of my parents, but especially my dad. And so we're doing the whole with dad on the weekends and with mom during the week. And my mom's now trying to figure it out as a single mother, and pretty much at that point it makes them both single parents. And it went from, before, my mother was a stay-at-home mom and my dad worked, and then once they divorced, now my mom had to go out into the workforce and my dad had to continue to work. So it was just like, when we were at home, my sister and I, when we were at home, we were by ourselves a lot of the time. So um you know, for safety purposes, it wasn't good to have us running around outside and stuff like that when no parents are home. So we had to sit in the house. And with my, as I already explained, with my relationship with food, it kind of just got out of control at that point. One, that it was like the only thing I felt I had control over, and it was the only thing that was bringing me like peace and calm and, like, I guess you can say joy in some ways, was my food. It was what brought me comfort. That's the better word for it. Between the ages of 9 to 12, that's pretty much how it went. I found comfort in food, very inactive. As I gained weight, my life started to change outside of the home. So the 4th grade was like where things just started drastically changing, and being constantly at home and eating so much and kind of feeling like life is out of control because of the split. I started experiencing severe bullying at school. I started being like teased all the time. And I remember the very first time, and I don't even know if I'll put this part in this video, but I'm just gonna say it, like I said, just to get this off my chest. But I remember the very first time I was picked on for being fat. I was at school. It was in the 3rd grade, I want to say. I was at school, I was in the 3rd grade, and I had this huge crush. Me and everybody else had this huge crush on this boy named Billy T. You know, up to that point, I had always received attention for being cute, you know, being a cute little girl. And so that was my perception of myself up to that point, you know what I mean? And so I more confidently, all the other girls are so shy to say, you know, hey to Billy T, or to say they like Billy T. And I don't remember who I was with, a couple of my little friends at the time, and we walk up to him and I'm like, you know, hey, you know, tell him that I like him or whatever. So my homegirl, she tells him, Laura likes you, wants to be your girlfriend, or something like that, you know, something to that effect. And he was like, he says, hell no, with her fat ass, or something like that. I'm laughing, but oh my gosh, this destroyed me at the time. Like, it crushed me. I was embarrassed. It was my first time. It was my first time experiencing any level of bullying or teasing surrounding my weight. And I didn't know. It was like it was like news to me in a way. And it really made me, that was the beginning of me starting to go inward. And it was like the beginning of me feeling insecure and just feeling like not enough, feeling less than, you know, starting to have those thoughts and kind of having fears around, oh, you know, you don't want to put yourself out there like that again. You know what I'm saying? And just embarrassed because all my friends, okay, and yeah, mind you, we're little kids and stuff, but all of my friends started laughing. As soon as he said it, they all fell out laughing, and I kind of had to pretend like I wasn't hurt and like, oh, okay, whatever. Like, I don't remember if I clapped back. I don't really remember much of what happened after. I just remember my feeling. I remember feeling so embarrassed, humiliated. I remember that's when I started just going inward. I just remember going inward at that point. And I don't remember if I ever told anyone. I don't remember mentioning it to my parents or anything like that. I think it was just embarrassing, and it was something that honestly, a lot of the bullying that I experienced, I don't remember ever talking to anyone about it. No. What I will say is it caused like a snowball effect when it came to my eating, because I ate for comfort, remember? So it's like the more I would experience this sadness and embarrassment around being teased in front of everyone in school, the more that I would seek comfort in food. And, you know, not only just being teased at school, but also the chaos of a lot of moving. I moved around a lot. When after my parents divorced, my mother was trying to find her happiness, I want to say, I'm gonna guess. So we moved a lot from the time they divorced to the time I finished school. I went to 21 different schools. So I moved a lot. So there was a lot going on around me. Let's just say that. There was a lot going on around me, and the one thing I found comfort in and I felt that I had some control over was my eating. Like, that was there. There may have been sadness around me, but I did find security, I guess you can say, in food. So it kind of just made things worse and worse, and that's where I really blew up there. I wanted to talk about the teasing. I'll say that the older I got, probably the worse it got, and also it would depend on where I lived at the time. So in Las Vegas, when I lived in Las Vegas, I'll say the teasing was the most mild living here in Vegas, on the West Coast. When I moved down south to Texas, it got brutal. Like, not only would I be just verbally teased or verbally bullied for being fat, but literally I had people push me and call me a name, and call me out my name based on being fat, just because I was fat, I guess, or just because I was overweight. Push me in my head, you know, for no reason, laugh, tease, you know, the typical being excluded during some things. I remember when I was in middle school, I lived in Texas at this time, or one of the many schools that I went to in middle school was in Texas. And I'm telling you, there were mornings where I would get dropped off to school and we would all have to wait right out front until it was time until they opened the doors for us to come in. And there would be these two boys who would just brutally, I mean, they were ruthless. They would just brutally tease me about my weight, about my clothes, about, I mean, just you name it. They would just sit there and just tease me in front of everyone and go on and on and on about it. And I know everyone has different experiences when it comes to them being teased as a child, especially when it comes to weight. I know that some children, even girls, but I think this more often happens with boys, but even girls, like when they're teased for being overweight, they start to turn to anger, and they lash out, and they, you know, want to fight, and they get real tough, you know what I mean? That wasn't me. I wasn't that kid. I wasn't that kid. I mean, I would stand up for myself, but not in that way. I definitely was not an aggressive child. I was not an aggressive child. I didn't run and cry. I wasn't that kid. I would not run and cry. Not at least not in the moment. I wouldn't give the bullies the satisfaction of watching me run away and cry. I'd just be like, whatever, whatever. I was like more that person, like whatever, whatever, okay, okay, enough, that kind of a thing. So, and you know, I will say this, because I know that a lot of, it's so, you know, it's kind of so complicated, right? Like, what advice do you give a child that's going through that? Do you say beat their butt? You know, do you tell them to turn to the aggression? Do you tell them to go tell somebody? You know what I mean? Then you'll feel like a snitch. You know what I'm saying? Oh, she had to run and go tell. Do you tell them just ignore them? Because that was the advice that I was given. I mentioned to my mom that I was dealing with some stuff at school where people were calling me out my name. And I remember my mother would say, just ignore them. You know, they're jealous. And see, that, I think that's good advice. But when you're a child and you don't have that mental maturity, like, yeah, just ignore them. That works well as an adult. But just ignore them as a child. You're not securing yourself enough to not be negatively affected by you just ignoring them. And here's why. I felt when I would just ignore them, I felt like I was being punked. And for people who, like I said, are not mature and they're insecure, that's how you're gonna feel. You're not gonna feel like, please, I don't have the time for you. You know what I'm saying? Like like I said, now ignoring somebody, it wouldn't give me the feeling of being punked. But as a child, be having that immaturity and that insecurity, I felt like I was backing down more so. Like what it did to me was make me feel weak. That's how it made me feel. And is that right? No. I think that that's excellent advice. I think ignoring people because they're the ones that look dumb and stupid and you're not going to stoop to that dumb and stupid level, that's the right advice. It really is. Especially when it's just words. Now, if someone's putting their hands on you, that's different. But when it's just words, that's the right advice, is to just be like, okay, you look and sound really dumb. But if you don't have that, again, I know I keep saying the same thing, but if you don't have that mental security and maturity, it's just going to make you feel like you're wimping out. And what that did in that time of my life was kind of just, it made my insecurities even worse. It just made me feel like, oh, and on top of all this, you're a wimp too. You know what I mean? There was just no running from the pain of the reality, I guess you can say, that I was overweight. And again, I would run back to the food. Pretty much at my heaviest as a kid, I finally weighed in at 250. Now, there is a possibility that it got heavier than this, but I think the only reason I hopped on the scale is because in PE at one of my schools, they were weighing everybody. That was tough, and I remember always wanting to be thin. Yeah, I remember thinking to myself, oops, excuse me. I remember thinking to myself, oh, I want to be thin, you know, I wish I could wear clothes like this, and you know, because of my weight. And that's why I say those other kids were teasing me about my clothes, because due to my weight, especially, you know, I was growing up in what, the 90s, you know, early 2000s. So it's just like, due to my weight, they didn't have like cute clothes for overweight children. I don't know if they do now. I would assume they do now. But then they sure didn't. I mean, you can see in the pictures the kind of stuff I was wearing, just pretty much whatever fit. And I would have to try to go in the women's section for some of the stuff, and it just wouldn't be it just wouldn't be right fitting, and it wasn't the cool clothes. Before I started gaining all this weight when I was younger, I remember always wanting to be cute. I always wanted to be cute. I always wanted to wear cute clothes. I always had an interest for fashion and kind of just being a little more edgy. A story on that, in the second grade, there was this dress, an Easter dress that I had, and I asked my parents, I said, can I wear this to school? And they were like, no, put this on, get dressed, go. And so I'm like, oh, okay, and I put the little dress in my backpack. Now, it'd be good to know here in the story that I didn't know how quickly I was growing because that Easter dress, I don't remember what time of the year, but it was the past Easter that I got the dress. And I put it in my backpack and brought it to school. Got to school, went to class, and on recess or whatever, I went to the restroom and changed into this dress. Now, I was an innocent child, so I didn't know that having a dress up to, higher than my mid-thigh was highly inappropriate. I just thought, look at my pretty dress, and it's cute and it's edgy and I look on point, you know what I mean? But I didn't realize how edgy it was, so of course my teacher was like, what is going on? And he called my parents, and apparently I must have really been looking like a little hoochie because it was bad. He must have told them like this was really bad, or not sure what's going on. I think he was even asking them like what's going on at home, to where she would do this, And my parents, when I got home, let's just say I got toe up. I had a desire. I definitely had a desire, and I've always been boy crazy, still am. So it's just like, I've always had a crush from a distance, and I never was confident enough really to tell any of my crushes that I liked them or anything like that. As a kid, I remember being in middle school in Lincoln, Nebraska, and there was this boy, Darrell Jordan was his name. And oh, I had the hugest crush on this boy. Like, oh, I was obsessed. I really, really was like, you know, in love from a distance type of thing. And one day my mom came to school. Now, this was the first time I ever thought, hey, I might actually be cute. This is the first time that it kind of reversed. And it's funny that it both came from a crush. But anyways, my mom had came to school to drop me off something. And she came while, you know, people were kind of wandering through the halls, I think. Or no, actually, I think he just went through the hall on bathroom pass and just so happened to see me and my mom in the hall. And then at lunch that day, he goes, was that your mom that was out there with you at lunch? And I was like, yeah, that was my mom. Pretty much this is like the first time I'm talking to a boy like that. And I'm in middle school. I want to say like 8th grade. And he was like, so was that your mom? I was like, yeah, that was my mom. He goes, she's pretty. You look just like her. And like all the girls, like, mind you, again, this is a boy that a lot of girls liked. Pretty much all the girls liked. And everybody at the table just kind of looked at me like, what you gonna say? And I was just like, okay, you know what I mean? I didn't say thank you or nothing. I just always remember that. But I know that I was just so happy after that, and I just started thinking like, oh, maybe I'm cute, you know what I mean? And I think by that time I started to kind of come down on the weight. I was growing, and I really, really had a strong desire to lose weight. Now, I was still overeating and eating in excess, but I remember at that time in my life, around the 8th grade, that's when I started doing sit-ups and stuff like that. My mom always had these exercise tapes and stuff that she was doing for herself at home. So I would pop in her tapes and do little workouts and stuff like that. So I was just being a lot more mindful of myself. I still was overweight, but I think that, you know, I was definitely coming down. I probably was closer to like around 200 pounds in the 8th grade than I was 250. My weight started slowly coming down. In the second half of the 9th grade, I moved back to Las Vegas. And living with my mom, it was a lot more of a strict environment. And, you know, even though, yeah, she did have to work and stuff like that, she still was good at being able to keep tabs on what we're doing. And, you know, she was a bit overprotective. And so we still kind of were at home a lot, you know what I mean? Going out sometimes, but more so, you know, really at home. Moving at the age of 15 in the 9th grade back to Las Vegas was crazy, especially living with my dad. He was much more relaxed and more lenient, and he didn't feel the need to be constantly watching us and placing all these rules on us. So, you know, if we wanted to hang out with our friends, that was totally fine. That's when the weight started dropping off me. I was outside a lot with my friends. The friends that I had, because I don't know if I've ever said this, but I was born and raised in Las Vegas, and for the most part raised, but like I told you, I didn't move a lot. But for the most part, I would always come back to Las Vegas. Las Vegas was always, you know, move somewhere, back to Las Vegas, move somewhere, back to Las Vegas. And so I had friends here. I had my little close group of friends that I've known since I was a little girl. Coming back in high school, I hadn't been around this group of friends for a while, and they were different. They were, you know, like the cool girls in school, and they were in, you know, fit, and they were in cheerleading, and, you know, they were thin, and a lot of boys liked them. And so they had a lot of boys in their group of friends that they would hang out with. And I was not used to that at all. I was not at all used to that. Hanging out with them, it wasn't constant eating or constant sitting around. We were always on the move, always doing something different. A lot of walking, because none of us had cars. So a lot of walking and getting on city transportation and stuff like that. Just being constantly on the move, constantly active. The weight started falling off. They did not eat as much as I did, and, you know, me feeling kind of embarrassed to like go in and eat two big burritos or something. Like, if they were just eating a cup of rice, then I was just eating a cup of rice, you know what I mean? So it was just kind of like kind of a you are who you hang around situation type of deal. And the weight, I'd say that year between 15 and 16 years old, dropped off of me. Just being active with friends and being out of the house and doing different things, and like I said, being around boys, all those things just kind of, it just naturally came off. And I went from over 200 pounds in that year to about 150 pounds. And I remember being a size 9 and being so happy, and I stayed around that weight and size until I was maybe like 18, and then I started going up a little bit, and then I went up a lot, and that's a whole other story, and it kind of leads into now. That's more, I look at, after 18, I look at that as my adult weight loss journey. It was actually really hard for me to sit down and do this video, to sit down and take the time to record it, because, and I sat and I recorded this video before, but I felt I had a hard time connecting to my old self. It was almost like I had to sit and really remember, you know, what all went down and how did this all go down. And as I sat and reflected on my my childhood and being overweight as a child, it really connected some dots for me. I look at how I feel when I'm sitting like Netflix and chilling. For those of you who have watched my how I stopped binge eating and overeating video, a lot of that, y'all know, okay, y'all know the story, okay? And if you haven't watched that video, go back and watch that video, okay? Like, y'all know the story. And it's just like the whole Netflix and chill. When I talk about the Netflix and chill thing, and how for me it's been like as an adult, Netflix and eat, and that's when I really overeat, and it's a trigger for me. And I look back now and I say, the summers that I spent literally just in the house from, like I said, like 9 years old to 12 or 13 years old, like, or even after schools every day, like just sitting watching Nickelodeon or Disney and eating. That's where it stems from, is that it's kind of breaking old habits from childhood, having that in my mind over and over. Oh yeah, Laura has that healthy appetite, and you know, Laura can eat just about as much as a grown man, you know what I mean? And kind of like, it's not that bad, it just kind of is what it is, and it's kind of entertaining type of thing. And you know, carrying that into my adulthood, and I'm like, why do I eat so much? You know what I'm saying? Like, more than I need to eat. And the comfort, you know, there are other triggers when things get kind of crazy and things feel out of control in my life. Even now as an adult, that's a trigger for me. That's when I say, oh, I just want to eat. What happened as a kid, that can't be changed. If you have a story that's similar to mine, getting it off your chest helps. Understanding it helps. It'll help you say, okay, I'm dealing with this because of this is something I dealt with as a child. But let's be real. We can't change it, and we can't blame anybody. You know what I'm saying? I can't blame my younger self. I can't blame my parents, my family. Right now, I can just take full responsibility for what my life is like now, and take the necessary steps to be what I'm most happy with. The person whose life can be impacted by these kinds of stories right now is children who are struggling with being overweight right now. And we all know somebody between the ages of 0 to 18. We can tell maybe their relationship with food isn't quite right, you know, isn't healthy. Maybe they are overweight, straight out. Maybe they're obese. These are our cousins, these are our nieces, our nephews, they're our children. I don't have children, but, excuse me, yeah, I personally don't have children, but, you know, a lot of women my age do have children, you know what I'm saying, who struggle with it. So, you know, there are children, there are siblings. To those kids, they need to know that somebody's here for them. Someone is there for them, that they can talk about it. If it's just feeling like life is out of control, if it's feeling like their only comfort comes from food, if it's, you know, bullying from students, you know, at school, if it's bullying from other siblings, if it's bullying from, I mean, some parents even tease their children, like, with your fat ass, you know what I mean? Or, you know, I think especially in our community, in the Black community, sadly, I see this too often, where we think it's kind of funny or cute to be like calling our kids fat, you know what I'm saying? Like bullying and teasing them. And oh, I think we think, oh, it's not coming from a bad place within me, so it's okay. But This we're sowing beliefs in these children's minds, and this is who they end up believing themselves to be. Tell these children that someone's here for them. Someone is here as a listening ear. Someone is here if they need help, if they need advice. Someone is here to realize, oh, ooh, all you do is sit around, eat, watch TV, or play video games. Ooh, someone's here to say, hey, babe, let's go on a walk. You know, if this is my child and I'm a mother, you know, let's do some mother-daughter time. Let's go on a walk every day as soon as I get off work. And that was another thing. I remember my dad used to try to help me lose weight when I was a kid. He used to run competitively. And I remember he would take my sister and I with him to the track as he would practice. And he would encourage me, you know, run with me and stuff. Obviously, I wasn't running as fast as him, and I was really overweight. And a lot of the time, overweight children deal with asthma or asthma-like symptoms, and I was definitely one of them. So, like, getting out there and running, that was a horrible experience for me, and it made me not want to do it at all. And, you know, we kind of laugh about it now, but, you know, I was telling my dad, you know, maybe if you would have just said, hey, let's walk. I don't think we should ever be making our children feel like they need to be out there on the hamster wheels like we are on these treadmills and ellipticals and stuff like that in order to lose weight. If you want to encourage your children to be more active and to exercise, I'd say get out there with them, throw the ball around, play catch, race from that tree to that tree. Let's see who can make it there the fastest. Cut cartwheels in the yard with your children. Make activity fun. Make exercise fun. Encourage your children to be active. And if it's a situation where you're a single parent and similar to my situation, maybe you don't want them outside because they're kind of young. They're old enough to stay at home alone, but they're not old enough to be outside, and you definitely don't want people knowing they're at home alone. I don't know, give them some sort of an active task. You know what I'm saying? Dust everything in here for 30 minutes. You know, something that's just an active task. Be more mindful and be there for them. Be there for them. And be there to help them. Because as I'm reflecting on the different things that I dealt with, even my love for sweets, again, for those who have seen my how I stopped overeating video, oh man, I told you how much I would eat sweets and how that helped me blow up. That was from childhood too. I remember when I lived in Texas, my grandpa would give me $5 every day, and I would walk to the corner store after school, get 2 honey buns, a boudin, and y'all know boudin's bon. I don't know everybody knows what that is, but I would get 2 honey buns, a boudin, and I think 2 little bags of chips. At the time they were like 25 cents, and I would just grub on that every day. And those are, even to this day, things like chips and sweets and stuff like that are things that, you know, I struggle to kick. And so it's just like, be mindful that the children around you, they're creating their habits for their future. You know, make it easy for them. Help them make it easy for themselves so they're not having to struggle with this in their adulthood. We love them, we'll help it make it easy on themselves. Let's help them build and create positive habits. Oh, my child is in the habit of being active, you know, outside, playing around, doing fun things after school. They're not in the habit of just sitting around, where later in their life they're going to have to say, why can't I get up off this couch and work out? You know what I mean? Like, why are you having that issue as an adult? Maybe because that's what you did as a child. Let's make it easy on these children that we love. We love these children. Let's help them. Let's make it easy on them. Let's not buy them junk. Let's not encourage them just to sit around all day. Let's encourage them to be active. Let's encourage them to eat healthy. And let them know that we're here for them. That's important. Let them know that they're not alone. Let them know that you understand. Try to give them good advice on how to deal with it if they're being bullied. It might even come down to them having to talk to a professional about it, you know, or you having to talk to a professional about how to handle it, you know. But just handle it and let these kids know that we are here for them and we love them, and we're going to do everything we can to set them up for a win. So that's all I have today. Thank you so much for listening. I'm so happy that I was able to get this off my chest. I've been wanting to talk about this for a minute. Let me know in the comments, did you struggle with weight as a child? Do you struggle with weight now? Do you know kids who are struggling with weight? Give me some of your story when it comes to childhood obesity. So if you like this video, give it a thumbs up. And don't forget to subscribe. Subscribe. And thank you for all the new subscribers. Oh my goodness, I'm so happy to have you here at my channel. Thank you so much for watching, and always remember to take care of yourself. See you next time.